Welcome to Cars on Call. This is automotive journalist Steve Schutz. I'm here with trauma surgeon Dr. Stephan Moran, who's in Maryland.
That's right. I went to spent last week with the boys at Copper, Colorado. We've been getting together for at least 20 years snow skiing. There was no snow skiing for me, so I surfed the
Because of your
cat
knee.
because of my new knee. Yeah, what a pain in the ass this has been, man. And literally a pain in the ass when my hip was killing me worse than my knee. We finally got an MRI and it shows that they tore the tendon that attaches from your butt muscles to your hip. So I've got a partial big tear there, and so it's more, it truly is an ass pain right now, is what it is. So,
Yeah,
but I'll be back on
yeah.
skis next year.
They're back at it. Well, cool. We're going to talk about a new Ferrari that's coming out and its connection to a design visionary. We're going to talk car spotting. I saw an interesting car. Trauma surgeon safety. We're the only podcast that has a trauma surgeon talking about safety. I think this is everyone should hear from, I always said this, ER nurses and trauma surgeons talking about safety, much more insightful than a PR flack working for Audi or something. And we're going to end with restomods. I saw a picture of Brad Pitt, who I never thought was a car guy, and he's got a resto-modded 1971 Mustang. And I said, all right, we should talk about
No,
resto-mods. So let's talk about
I'll
that.
need to pull, I'll have to pull that up when we start doing that because I did not, yeah, Brad Pitt's restaurant. Let me see if okay. Brad Pitt, 70, he says a 71 Mustang.
Yeah.
All right.
Which is
Oh,
not considered, one of the best Mustangs, but it looked really good, the one I saw that he was driving.
yeah, I'm not a big fan of the 71. Here it is. Yeah, let me see if I can.
It was kind of big and bloated.
Yeah, they're big and bloated. A lot of people like that. Let me see here.
By the way, I saw,
Okay.
back in the day, I thought those things were big and bloated and just huge and just ugly. And I saw one recently. And I'm like, holy crap, it's not that big by
Oh,
our
really?
standards.
Okay, here we go. Let's see. I can't get it to load. All right, we'll skip that. All right, well, so let's see what's next. Car spotting. We're gonna go straight into Johnny Ive.
Yeah, Ferrari Luce. So you're the one that sent me this and tell us about this, the new
So,
Ferrari.
I was here we go, got the iPhone here. I mean, billions of these things sold. I've been an Apple fan like since forever. 1,000 songs in your pocket with the first iPod, the first iPad, the first iPhone, and Steve Jobs just
You
had,
told me to get one 25
yeah,
years ago. You said you got to get one of these iPods. I'm like, well, I don't know. It doesn't seem. And I got it. I'm like, holy crap, Stefan's right.
it's thousands, it was 1,000 songs in your pocket. And I went through a bunch of iterations and then the Nanos but Steve Jobs always had a way of, he, he, he wanted to create a product that you didn't know you needed, that you did not even have the desire for one, but the minute you saw it, you had to have it. And then he wanted his products to basically create an emotional attachment to this device. And I think, the iPhone is clearly today's leading example of that. But Steve Jobs was just a genius with that. And John Ivy, who I'm Johnny Ive, who worked for Steve Jobs, really got his big start with Steve Jobs. He was one of the key designers of the iPhone. And they just did not want any buttons on it. They just had it so that you just had this beautiful face that you light up and you touched and you interacted. So, we've all read about the BEV and Ford taking billions a hit on stopping their production of the BEVs. General Motors has taken a huge hit. Porsche is in, I mean, really kind of dire straits a little bit financially because they dropped their whole BEV program. And Ferrari, kind of like, and Toyota said they weren't going to get into this. Toyota said, we're not doing this whole BEV thing. It makes no sense to us. We'll do plug-ins and we'll do our standard hybrids. Well, Ferrari has been slow to the game and they turned out to be very wise about it. They've been slow to the game and they really wanted to develop a BEV because they know they're going to have to. And it's called the Ferrari Luce, but they have taken a very different approach. And I think what they really did was they kind of sat back and saw what other manufacturers did, and they kind of realized that this is a whole new um what's the right word? A whole not a spectrum, but a BEV by a manufacturer like Ferrari, a supercar, sports car, has got to be different and has got to break the mold. It can't be just plugging in batteries and electric motors into one of their gas cars. This is a frame up, different suspension. Everything is different about this car. But they decided to hire. When Johnny Ive left Apple, he started a company called LoveFrom, and it's a design company with his friend Mark Newson back in 2019. And Ferrari hired them to design the interior, which is really it was a very interesting move on their part. But clearly, I think Ferrari understood that they wanted to design an electric vehicle that had that magic iPhone connection, the magic iPod touch, the Johnny Ive touch, where you immediately felt a deep down emotional connection to this new item that you have. And they said, you know what? A lot of other people have done EVs. We need a fresh approach because it's got to be different from everything else they have. I mean, it's going to be the Ferrari EV and it's just not thrown in batteries. So I think it was a bold move on their part. I've read a lot of different reviews. They're kind of mixed. Some people like it, some people don't. But we're going to go ahead and move into it. We'll show some pictures here. But Johnny Ive, what he did is when approached this Ferrari, he recognized that there's new technologies out there, but you had to create new form factors, how you interact with this technology to unleash the full potential. iPhone touchscreen, um, very few controls. That's really the greatest example. But here he's kind of gone the opposite approach of the iPhone. He wants you to physically interact with the vehicle, and he's just gone off the charts in terms of all the tactile buttons and knobs on it. So he wanted to create something. He said it reminds us that we are physical, hence the touch of the interface system, and they want visceral and direct connections. You want to drive your Ferrari, you want to enjoy it. And here's the next interesting thing that I did not realize about further reading. Ferrari CEO Benedetto Vigna, before he was at Ferrari, he ran IT companies. He supplied all the iPhone sensors that made the iPhone 4 so popular because it had all the different, what are they called? The G sensors in it. So Vigna has been a long time, worked with Apple for a long time. So he basically got Apple design with Johnny Ive through Johnny Ive's new company. And his quote was, I believe that when you put people together with different experience that see reality with different eyes, you get something unique. We needed to do something disruptive, something new. The Luce, I think is how you pronounce it, has new technology, and with a new technology, you need a new design language. So really what we have here when you look at this is kind of a classic Ferrari kind of resto modded by Apple. So it's got some older touches in it. I'm just going to go ahead and pull up a picture here so you can kind of see. Share. So here is a picture of the steering wheel and the binnacle above. And one of the first things you'll notice is you can just see that everything is proportionally right. The materials look right, but he's got a three-spoke wheel. And Johnny Ive also decided when these buttons, they really only have, if they move to one position, that it does one thing. It either takes something up or down or it moves to the sport, but the buttons don't have multi-functions in terms of running two different systems. They're just the fan button goes up and down, but it doesn't also control temperature. So when you look at this, I think it's a gorgeous steering wheel. I love the two subdials that each have three buttons. It's symmetric. And it's hard to tell from the picture, but the gauges have mechanical needles, but working with together with Samsung, the backs are electronic, but because of the depth of the glass, they introduce parallax. And what that means is when you look at these gauges, they look mechanical. They have 3D depth to them. It's just not simply a screen. They actually somehow with the glass got this 3D parallax, which I think in real life people said is actually very cool. So I know looking at this first picture here, Steve, you've had some thoughts. I'll let you just say in a few thoughts before I move on.
Well, I think it's good. I mean, I like the I like the it's been said that the iPhone is the best industrial design of the last 60 years, probably maybe 100 years. And, you can debate how long you go back, but it's one of the all-time great industrial designs. And I think that that is why we are where we are. Everyone looked at it and it was so great that everyone forgot that it's great as a phone that
Right.
that has apps. It's not great for interfaces in a car when you're driving. But they decided, everyone, the whole automotive industry said, yeah, we're just going to put screens in and touch screens and you touch it like the iPhone because people like the iPhone. So we'll just do that for cars. And you had, the worst case example was the latest Volkswagen Golf, where everything is sliders and touch screens and there's no buttons. And then everyone said, oh crap, including Johnny Ive. Hey, wait a second. That's not right. We need buttons. We need buttons and knobs. There's no reason to have the volume be anything but a knob that you twist. There's no
Right.
reason for that. And I think that, ultimately, this is Johnny Ive saying the iPhone that I created was great as a touchscreen and nothing else with no knobs. A car is different, and I want to do it this way. I give him credit. I think it looks great. I think this is really, really good.
Yeah, so that was, and this is the next picture is some people call this the iPad of the in the car, but so for these that aren't watching, in the center portion, there's a small screen that's got like a handlebar across the bottom so that you can rest your hand when you're flipping the toggles. And he's actually got a dial in there. And so, yeah, he's minimized the interaction with the screens, but he's included everybody is going back to buttons in the car. People, you just have to have that interface in it. And let me show you the next picture here, which I think is really cool. So this is a picture of the center portion of the dash where he's got the stick shift and it's this gorgeous clear knob with aluminum center. But this picture, the Ferrari on the left is actually the key. So this is like a little flat metal fob it's got the Ferrari on it, but when you put it in here and click it down in, the Ferrari light turns on. So the Ferrari and the horse light up, just those cool little kind of Johnny Ive things. So what I think is impressive to me is they realized that they wanted to get back the tactile experience along with the BEV. And by bringing Johnny Ive in, I think they've created an environment that you're going to love being in this car. And it's new, it's different. Yes, it may take time to get used to, but there's enough retro stuff with the three-spoke wheels, the magneto on the steering wheel. I think it's going to be a hit. But the reason Ferrari's also been slow is they realized that they had to design a car that's going to be an electric car but it's got to drive the way a Ferrari drives. So they've been spending a lot of time on this car. How are they going to do it? Well, they have four motors, one at basically each end. They call them e-axles. They're writing their own software. They want to be 100% in control. That I kind of wonder about. Writing software is not easy. They want to manufacture everything. They want to control every aspect of this new Ferrari, as they have with their ICE vehicles. So I mean, Ferrari's done everything in-house forever on their own cars. So, they're very keen to point out, while this may be its first electric production car, it's still going to feel like a Ferrari because we designed it from the ground up. It has rear
Well,
wheel
let me say
steering.
this.
Well, yeah.
All right, go ahead, finish up.
So it's got rear wheel steering because they wanted to maximize the input of each motor, which makes the car turn better. It makes it feel more natural. It has active suspension because what they don't want you to do is just floor the car and then all four wheels spin. They're going to actually control it so it drives more like a true sports car capable of full active cornering, and they didn't want it to be compromised of the like more conventionally engineered electric cars are by the massive acceleration at each one of these wheels. So they're taking their time. They're sending out some kind of teasers all the time. And actually, I'm going to pull one up. This is a rendering, but I think it's a bold move on their part, and I think unlike the Taycan. I think they will sell these cars. I think they will sell these. And it's going to kind of basically be, here it is. It's going to look like basically a four-door. compact SUV car, whatever you want to call this crossover. This is a rendering what people think it's going to look like. This is not actually the car. This is from Car Magazine. Oh, and one
All
last
right.
thing. I'm gonna say one
Yeah,
last
go
thing they
ahead.
have in the car. They put an accelerometer onto one of the motors, and this accelerometer translates the torque and the winding up of the motor then into a signal which comes into the car. They didn't want the actual noise of the rotors and all this, so they're going to pump in noise into the car with speakers, but it's going to be actually from the electric motor itself. So it's kind of an interpreted sound from the accelerometer, but the sound that you get is directly related to how hard the electric engines are working. Kind of interesting concept. We'll see where it goes with that. But they said that it has to have noise. And this is how they're going to get the noise into the cockpit. Interesting. But
Well, I hate to diss Ferrari. Ferrari is one of the great bands of all time. I'll start off by saying that Lamborghini, their most direct competitor, just announced that they have scrapped all electric car development and there will be no Lamborghinis that are electric for the foreseeable future. Why? Their CEO said, our customers don't want them. I
yeah.
think it's exactly the same for Ferrari. I hope that they take the Jony Ive interior and put it in all their internal combustion engine cars. I think it's going to be great. I love those interiors. I think they're fantastic. I think it's the next thing in automotive interiors. It'll be great for internal combustion engine cars. The Porsche Taycan is actually a great car.
Oh
It
yeah,
drives
I
like a
drove it with you.
yeah, it drives like a Porsche, but it's electric. But it
Right.
drives like a Porsche. Nobody fucking wants it. They depreciate like crazy. They're not selling. They lose money on every single one of them. I think Ferrari, this is a tell. They're coming out with an electric car, and they didn't say, "Hey, we're coming out with an electric car." They said, "Hey, let's talk about Jony Ive." I think that says a lot, and I think they're nervous, and I think they're probably trying to do everything they can to hedge their bets here because they don't want to be underwater like Porsche was. Porsche went from the most profitable car company in the world to no profits because of their electric bet, which was completely wrong. I think this is a big mistake by Ferrari. I think they should do what Lamborghini's doing.
I think what Ferrari's going to do is, if you want, it's first of all, you just can't walk into a Ferrari dealership and buy a Ferrari. They limited production. They sell them all out, and you kind of have to develop this customer relationship to even get in line for the good stuff. Now that I think this is the way they're going to bring people in. Okay, buy the Ferrari Luce. Come back to me next year, and we'll talk to you about buying a 12 cylindry or something else. I think so. I think they will move their stock of these cars simply by it'll be the entry. This will be the entry level to owning a Ferrari for a lot of people to get their foot in the door. They really don't want it, so they'll come back on the secondary market depreciated like the Taycan. But it's going to be the way that you end up with a internal combustion Ferrari is by buying one of these.
This is progress.
No, it's
Hey,
not
take
progress
some
at all.
crap you don't want so you get something
Yeah,
you
I
do want.
know.
All right. That's it. We'll see what
Yeah,
happens.
that's it. Next.
I will say this. I don't want to be all negative. I think the Ferrari Luce is a great car for 20 years from now. It's not a good
Yes.
car for now. So,
No, it's not a good car for now.
speaking of a good car spotting is a car I spotted recently. And this is a great car from 40 years ago. And this is the 1985 Honda Civic CRX. The one I saw was in great shape, really well preserved, just sitting on the street. And this is a car, it's easy to forget this car. It was tiny, it was fuel efficient, it was sporty, and it was very popular. And I will say this, there was a two-pronged approach to attacking the global market. This is when Honda and Toyota became global automakers that were credible. And I would say that the first step was a 1984 Honda Civic range. And there were four Honda Civics. You'd think there'd be one, but there were four distinct ones. There was this, which is a CRX two-seater sports car. Then there was a hatchback. If you open up the next email, you'll see, there he goes. I mean, the CRX is a cute little car. And then open up my the other ones, it shows the four Honda Civics. It was the CRX sports car, which was low volume and sporty. It was only a two-seater. There was a hatchback, which was like a nerdy Volkswagen Golf. You had there's the wagon. No, that's the hatchback. So it's like a Volkswagen Golf, but it's Japanese. Then there's a sedan for people who want four doors, but want it, was still small and economical. And then there was the wagon. And these four together were credible competitors to the Americans and the Germans. And of course, the quality was absolutely great. But these were real cars, not the little tiny Japanese cars like the Corolla from the 70s or the Civic from the 70s, which were too small to be
Right.
used. These were larger and better looking and advanced. And then in 1986, they came out with the Accord, which we all remember, absolutely stunned the world. It was much larger. It was great quality. It drove like a German car. And the combination of the 84 Honda Civic range and the 86 Accord, which was a sedan and a hatchback, the coupe and the wagon, they all came later. They established Honda as a credible global automaker, and the rest is history, as they say. So I was really psyched to see that CRX on the road.
Yeah, that CRX is, I remember those. Those were really cool. And you basically in this size vehicle, the big two choices were the Corolla or the Civic. But the
Yeah,
Civic, the Corolla was kind of like the stodgy, kind of just kind of boring. But the Honda Civic design was nicer. And the idea that they had the CRX, a two-door, a sporty little thing with great gas mileage, very affordable. It was a hatch. And then they had the station wagon, the hatchback thing with all-wheel drive if you wanted it. Yeah, they just knocked it out of the park with this lineup. They had a little bit, had, a little bit of everything for anybody in that lineup. You could get the body basically you wanted. And yeah, I remember them. They were everywhere because they were so awesome. And they were all
they
stick
drove well.
shift. They
You could tell
drove
they
very
they
nice.
they yeah, they benchmarked BMW, front wheel drive, so they're not going to drive as well as a BMW, but they drove really well. They were sporty to drive.
Yeah, I'm sure they all had McPherson struts on the front end, which, was really created the handling on these cars. But and they were very well built, and the interiors were nice. It didn't feel cheap and plasticky. This was, yeah, they really they got off the porch and ran with the big dogs with this one. I like they great cars.
Yeah, it's a testament to the quality that I saw one on the road that looks like that. How many how many 1985 Chevy Cavaliers do you see?
What I can't
None.
believe is that car's not totally rusted out. It must have been come from the Midwest and had the Meineke rust proofing. Remember that? Everybody took you took your
Yeah.
car to Meineke, and what they do
The
is they would drill
70s,
holes.
60s and 70s Japanese cars rusted like crazy. By the time they got to the 80s, they figured out the
They
steel
figured it out.
and they started to galvanize it like, Porsche very famously galvanized their steel in the 70s. Japan started doing it in the 80s. So the rust problem was less of an issue, although you're right, it was still a problem. Anyway, safety. What do you got? Trauma surgeon safety.
So interestingly, this is another big bold move from Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. So the number one, what do you think the number one reported in bodily injury is in U.S. auto claims?
Oh, gee, I never
I'm
thought
going to
about
tell you
that.
it's from a very low speed impact.
I always assume it's whiplash or neck injuries.
Exactly, whiplash. The number one payout for insurance companies, basically, if you get hit from the rear, if you find the right lawyer, you're gonna get paid for a whiplash neck sprain strain. Because the problem is there's no x-ray to prove you don't have it. The only thing that anybody can say is, yes, it hurts, I have it, and nobody can contest that. So for a long time, the U.S. auto insurance industry has wanted to decrease these. They wanted cars to get better so that there were less of these injuries. And so Insurance Institute for Highway Safety came out with a new test, and it basically challenges automakers to further improve their seats and head restraints, provide better protection in rear impacts. Because what happened was when they first started this rear test looking for whiplash type injuries, Of course, manufacturers didn't do very well. Well, now virtually every car gets a good rating with whiplash score. So, Insurance Institute for Highway Safety says we need to make this test tougher because the claims are still there. They did not get the reduction in claims they had hoped. So they felt like maybe our test didn't represent what really occurs in the real world. So let's make it a more difficult test. And then they saw that there were variations in insurance claims for different models that even though the same two cars vehicles got good ratings, one had far more whiplash injuries than the other. So that told them that some designs provided better protections, even though they both had a good results. They said, we got to do this, we got to make this test better. So their new test involves a simulated rear impact because it's less destructive. It's a lot cheaper to run for a manufacturer, meaning they're not putting dummies in a car and rear-ending a car. They're putting them on a sled and they're doing acceleration changes with the sled. Basically they just take the driver's seat out, put it on a sled, put a typically a mid-sized male dummy, which once again they should be using female dummies as well, that's designed for rear impact testing, and the new dummies have an articulated spine. They put them in the seat, and then there's a sudden pulse of acceleration to simulate the effect of stationary vehicle being struck from behind. And they do now a 20 mile per hour impulse test and a 30-mile impact impulse test. And really, they're looking at three key things here. They're looking at head and spine support. Because you think about it, if you're going to get hit from the rear, what's going to happen is you're going to move back into that seat. Because basically you're there, the seat's going to is actually coming forward and hitting you from the back. Your head's going to go back, hit the headrest. So how does your head and spine do it? And then how well does the seat manage the energy transfer to your body? Where does your pelvis go? Because you make your pelvis, you're going to go back into the seat. You're going to go down into the seat cushion. So they're looking at pelvic transition, all this stuff. And they did a whole bunch of tests. And very interestingly, I'm going to pull this up here. Only 4 out of 18 small SUVs got a good rating this time, so that tells you that the test is a lot better. It's a lot more stringent, which is a good thing, which is what you want. So what this really provides for you now is another piece of information when you go to buy a car, something you can think about. So the Audi Q3 came out with good. The Hyundai Ioniq 5, which is their BEV, which Elle and I are actually looking at buying, came out a good. The Subaru Forester, a good, and the Toyota RAV4 got a good. But look at that, the Buick, the Chevy, the Honda, the Jeep, the Kia, the Mercedes GLB, the Outlander, the Volkswagen Taos, they only got acceptable. The BMW X1 and the Rogue got marginals. And then poor down there, the Ford Bronco Sport, if you call it the Bronco and an OtterBox, that thing is just that's going away. That's just a terrible platform. My wife's Hyundai Tucson got a poor. And actually, it's interesting. And my wife and her Honda, she's only 5 feet tall, and her Tucson, she has to turn the headrest around because it hits her at like the top of the head, and she can't make it go further back. So she turns it around, which puts it further away so she can drive the car. And of course, when I get in it, my head is about 8 inches away from the headrest, and I got to turn it back around. But it's not very adjustable, which is not great. And then the Mazda CX-50, which is really selling very well. That's a great little mini crossover. It's got a pour. So this is when if you're going to buy a new car, no, people aren't buying cars anymore. They're buying compact SUVs and midsize SUVs are the segment leaders. But this is just another piece of safety information for you to consider. Like you say, yeah, I like the RAV4 and I like the CRV. Well, the RAV4's got a good, does it matter to you which one you get? Well, yeah, I'm going to take the RAV4 because overall it gets a good. All the other ratings equal. I'm going to take the good over the acceptable. Why not? If it's
So
not that
Stefan,
bad.
what's the key here? Is it have a soft headrest close to your head, or is it have a headrest that gives way? What's the perfect headrest for you?
So the perfect headrest for anybody when you're in a vehicle is you want your head to make contact with the headrest with the least amount of acceleration. So what I'm meaning is think about it. If you're sitting in your seat upright and you get slammed, put yourself in a kitchen chair with a low back. Okay, imagine a low back chair in your kitchen. You get hit from the rear at 20 miles an hour. you're going to fold your back over that chair until your body can actually react. If it's so fast, it'd break you in half. But until your body can manage that acceleration, because this is actually an acceleration event, not a deceleration event, because you're getting from the rear. You are accelerating. You are the chair, the basically the car seat is accelerating into you, and you're actually, kind of accelerating towards it, and then you come in contact with it. So what, I tell people when you get in the car, you really want to adjust everything so you are in an upright position because if you have your seat back fully reclined, you're going to submarine under your lap belt. Okay. And what you want is you want to decelerate, accelerate, however you want, but you want to allow that seat to do the work for you, for your body as you change as you go through this delta V. So part of that too is having the seat back fairly upright, being, you're far enough away from the steering wheel, having the seat belt low across your pelvis, and then you've got your frontal belt. So when you're hit from the rear, what you basically want your head is to barely move, and then you want it to be in contact with the headrest. So that now the headrest, you're decelerating into the headrest, or the headrest is accelerating into you. So you're riding it down with the headrest with the weight of your head, not with your neck muscles. But part of
Mm.
that is you also, now think about it, if your head's going back towards the headrest, but you've got the seat back reclined, now you're sliding down the seat. I mean, you're going to be riding your head from the headrest now to the back of the seat. That's going to be changing the vectors and everything. So that's how they kind of looked at it, was adding all those different perspectives. And when I get in a car, interestingly, Volvo for a while had what they called an active headrest. So when you're in a wreck, the headrest moved towards your head to catch your head earlier, and then it would bend and decelerate. So part of these tests also involve how if some of the poor ratings I'm sure are where you hit the headrest and then the headrest deforms and goes backwards. You don't want that. So that it's got to be firm enough structurally that it can maintain integrity and you can have your change in velocity. But
Wow,
very interesting.
interesting. All right, cool. Next is the restomod section, and this is really cool. Did you find that it's funny, I don't remember, I didn't save the Brad Pitt 1971 Mustang, and I saw it, and like I said, he doesn't, he's not famous as a car guy. So,
Right.
but if it's not there, whatever. Who cares? I know he has it. It
I'm
looks
looking for it right
well.
now.
My recollection is it's black,
No,
and
it's actually like a gold brown, but all I'm finding is stuff on Facebook, and then of course, the Facebook is just oh maybe that might here it is. All right, here we go. We can share this. There we go.
well, the
Uh,
genesis for restomods is hot rods, and hot rods, the World War II vets in the 40s, 50s, 60s, put their old 40s Fords and hopped them up with a, oh, there it is, yeah, that's him,
yep.
and that's it. That's the picture. So it's brown, but it's beautiful. And then baby boomers started taking their muscle cars from the 60s and 70s, and what they wanted to have the experience and look of the old muscle cars, but they wanted more advanced technology. So newer engines. You want the modern car experience, if you think about it, compared to an old experience. Old experience is you pull over to the side of the road, your muscle car, because it overheats. It doesn't start. It floods because of the carburetor. There's all kinds of problems, and the
They
air
don't
conditioner
stop
barely
because the
works.
brakes for total shit.
Brakes, yeah, absolutely. By the way, yeah, total shit and dangerous, right? Because they didn't
Yes.
stop you. The handling sucked because the suspension was old and the tire technology was bad. So you have an air conditioner that works, a safe cabin. It's all the modern conveniences. You can hook it up to your iPhone and play your music. You have a motor that's an engine that's modern and starts every single time. And that's what that was the restomods, was these muscle cars that were old with these new components. So I
Yeah,
thought, I
basically,
saw it, I'm
it
like,
looks old. It's a car of your childhood. It looks old, but it drives like a new car.
that's
Dude,
it.
you go
And I
drive, it's
thought,
like you go drive that 65 Mustang. It's not a great pleasure to drive.
yeah, yeah, you drove the best one, the 429.
Yeah, I drove Jack Rouch's 429. He had upgraded the brakes on it. That was a good ride, but of course it had the Jack Rouch touch.
Yeah.
He did a few things in a few places that made it nice to drive.
But as soon as I saw that, I'm like, all right, so Brad Pitt has a good restaurant. I immediately thought of you, Stefan. Like, what restaurants would you have? And I thought, well, I know what I want to have. So let's do that. I'll start with mine because I had this idea based on Brad Pitt. I like the brown, by the way. That's a very 70s color. So I came up with three. I think they're a little different. I have always loved the Ford Econoline from the mid 60s. Always loved this car. It is just like a box. Has car magazine likes to say. It looks like the box it came in. So it's boxy, but it's got kind of a cool, a little bit of a sinister look with the headlights and the grill. I just thought this car is so cool. I would take this with just nothing crazy, just a Ford Mustang GT 5 liter crate motor and a 6 speed manual transmission. I'm sure the gear lever would be super long. This is one where the engine is right between the front seats. So you're separated from the passenger by the engine, which is under a cover. Remember these cars, Stefan?
Oh yeah, Matt, and I remember sitting on the cover of these riding around.
Yes.
Yes, you'd sit on the cover, no seatbelt, anything. It was amazing we all survived. But yeah, these are Econoline vans. They just look like a death trap on four wheels. And yeah, are you gonna sell ice cream out of this thing? Want some candy, little girl, or
Free candy.
free
He
candy, a
spray
panel
paint
van?
free candy on the side of it. I absolutely love this. And I would get it. I debated getting windows or not. And I thought, no, I'm getting a panel van. So
This is so Steve-O, man. I could just because you're always pulling up a van of some like if it's a rock and don't come and knocking, you're gonna have that. You gonna have shag carpet in the back of this thing too.
oh, absolutely. Shag carpet and like a what the beanbag chair, like 5 beanbag chairs or something.
Oh, that would be awesome.
All right. So the next was I don't know which one is listed, but yeah, we both people now don't understand just how impactful and cool the Saab 900 was in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. It was so cool. This is a 1980 model with the cool wheels. This was absolutely a cool car. It was as cool as any BMW.
It was the
And
cool. It was cooler than a BMW.
yeah, it
This
kind
was
of was.
this was the car. I mean, yeah, if you went to any old school like William and Mary, any of those old Southern colleges, Swanee, all the rich guys were the fraternity houses parking lots were just filled up with these cars. This was the ultimate car to have. It was cooler than a
Yeah,
BMW 320. It was just a cool car.
it was very preppy. And I just love this car. So what I would do is I'd have a modern interior in it and a Honda Civic R engine, so around 300 horsepower, and a 6 speed transmission, manual, of course. And I think that would be really fun to drive. But you'd have the essence of the Saab. Of course, you'd have it, where you had to have the car in reverse to start it, and you had to, put the key to start the car is between the front seats, like in the where the handbrake is. I'd love to. I would keep a lot of the interior the same, but I would, fix a lot so it's modern. But I mean, imagine this was Savant with 300 horsepower.
You put the Civic R engine, for the same, well, it'd be a little bit more weight. I would just drop an LS in that. I think that would be outrageous.
I thought about that. I mean, what you're
Yeah.
talking about is a Corvette V8.
Yeah, Corvette V8. It's aluminum Corvette V8, which would not weigh. I
I don't
mean,
like.
they're
I don't like. I wouldn't. I can't connect. By the way, the four-cylinder turbo engine in this car had a very distinctive sound. It was different from any other engine, but it was four-cylinder. I don't want a V8 sound in this.
okay. Yeah, I can see that. But I would, yeah, more power is always better. Not necessarily.
what what automotive problem can't be solved with a V8, Stefan? Right?
That's right.
And then my last one was very classic
Oh yeah.
boomer resto mod, but I picked the 1973 Plymouth Cuda, Plymouth Barracuda. And the reason I picked it is that the taillights. They back in the day, in the politically correct 1970s, these were called shotgun headlights, like a side by side, double barrel shotgun. And I just like that a lot better than all the other ones, which were kind of basically rectangles. And these taillights is everything for me. And give me a Hellcat and a 6 speed, a very modern interior. I'm a Plymouth guy, as you know. I always like Barracudas. So this is my last one. If you told me to pick just one out of the three, absolutely shag carpet and the Econoline.
I like that CUDA. Would you get that big old black decal on the side? What was that called? Is that the
No,
scat? What was that? There's a name for that decal. It came on. I forgot what it
they
came
called
on.
it a billboard. It was a hockey puck for
That's
the 1970, and it was a billboard for the 71. The 73 did not come with this billboard. This is a resto mod, so they stuck that
okay.
billboard on. Because the part that was on the door, you can kind of barely see it. That would say Hemi or 340 or 440 in the 71. I don't know what the heck I'd have it say. I'd probably have this lime green without any graphics.
Yeah. All right. So your top choice is the Scooby Dooby Doo with Shaggy
Yeah,
van. What was the name of that van in that cartoon? It had a name, didn't it?
yeah, I don't remember.
I can't remember. Yeah, but they had it looked basically like that. All right, those are three great choices. Which I knew the Cuda was going to be in there. You totally got. I wasn't
You didn't
surprised
see
when
the
I
Saab
saw.
coming.
I didn't. The Saab totally blew me away. I did not see that coming at all.
Yeah.
All right,
All right, I
all
want
right,
to see yours, man. I'm very curious.
all right. So you can probably guess two of them. Go
By
ahead,
the way,
guess.
we'll take a moment to say Adams can't join us today. He would have had a hell of a list.
Oh yeah, then he would have had an awesome list. All right, so you can probably guess at least two of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, Sam.
A Mustang, a 60s
Oh,
Mustang of
oh,
some
there
type.
you go.
Yeah.
A Mustang and what?
A Cobra, and
Yep.
then something else, which I give me a second to think about the third. But
All
anyway,
right,
all
so
right, tell us about your Mustang.
my favorite Mustang year and body type is the 67 Fastback.
Wimbledon
Um,
White.
in Wimbledon white, I really like the white on this car. So this is a resto rod. I looked at the Ring Brothers and the Chip Foose. I still would want door handles on mine, but I kind of like the way they did the paint color and the louvers. I'm not totally hip. This car's got five spoke kind of modern interpretation of the older wheel. I'd go with a little more older type wheel, but look here, the bumpers are tight in, and of course I would have a Coyote in it with the Tremec 6 speed. And then what they actually do with these Mustangs is they basically take the body and set the body on a entirely new frame and suspension. But they incorporate it right into it. So they're taking, so you've got a brand new car at the bottom side with an old car on the top side, and then you can put seat belts in it and that kind of stuff. So that would be my first choice. And look at the front here, and I would keep a simple front end like that. I would, this one's de-chromed a little bit, but I'd want it to look very much like a 67 fastback that kind of Chip Foose got a hold of and kind of made it look like a show car 2, 3 years later for the next model coming down the line. So yeah, this
Yeah,
would, and
less
I,
is more, right?
huh?
Less is more.
Less is more, exactly. Yep. So this would be my first choice. And I wouldn't want the GT Valence. I mean, the GT 350 Valence or the hood scoop. I just would like this, I think. I would probably like a little
Yeah.
chrome in that front grille would be cool. So that was my first, that's my first one.
But
And
by
then
the last one, I was gonna say F100 pickup truck, but Bronco, sure, why not?
And I'd have to have a Bronco. I like the International Harvester Scout, but to me, the Bronco is just a cleaner look. Even though I thought about a Scout, and I'd have to have my Ford Bronco in this color, which is I don't robin's egg blue. To me, it's just classic. And then I like this. They got a little bit of white and tartan interior in here, but with the upgraded suspension. But these things. I mean, there's several manufacturers. These things sell for like they start at 120 and this get up into 200s quickly. But I absolutely this is just a car from my childhood. I love these vehicles, and I think they are so cool. This is way cooler than a Jeep.
Yeah, you're a Ford guy. You want to have a Ford, and you can call Rob and Zeg blue all you want, but I know you're getting Gulf blue.
Yeah, that way I would get exactly. I would get Gulf Blue with a few. I probably have some orange treatment on the interior too.
Right, right.
Yeah, because I do have my Gulf watch on today, of course. And
Beautiful.
then here's one you're gonna be a little surprised, Steve-O.
Whoa.
I could not find the resto rod. So listeners, when I was in college, they had the 924 Porsche, the 944, and the 944 Turbo. And that was the first truly almost affordable Porsche that you could, when you saw a 911, I knew I can't afford that. A 944 was almost within reach. Almost. I mean, it was still too much money, but it wasn't the stratospheric jump in price to a 911. They drove great. And I actually looked this up. There are a lot of people out there that sell conversion kits to drop an LS. And the rear transaxle on the 944 is strong enough for the horsepower of an LS. And it would kind of hurt me to do an LS. There are a couple people that do the Coyote. If I could do the Coyote, I'd do that. But here you can see this is kind of what I call the Chip Foose effect as well. They kind of this is somebody drew this in AI, but it's cleaned up. The lines are a little bit smoother, but it still looks exactly like a 944. I like the new headlights on it. So I think a resto rotted 944 with a V8 in it would be absolutely one of the coolest resto rides you could have. I think it would be just fan. It would drive amazingly. It's a coupe. I like coupes. It's front engine, rear engine. I like that a lot. That's my favorite. I prefer that over all-wheel drive. And you've got the 911s, which have their own peculiarities driving. The older 911s can be a complete handful. So that is my
Let me say a couple words about the 9. I love this, by the way. It's a great choice. 944 is now getting some love.
yes,
But the
finally.
944, I liked what you said about it in the 80s because it was accessible.
Yes,
Uh,
accessible.
and Porsche does not have a car like the 944 now, which is a damn shame. I don't know if you knew this. A lot of people are not aware. The average annual income of a 911 buyer today is over $800,000 a year. Average. That's not accessible.
No,
And
that's not accessible.
back in the 80s, this was an accessible car. You could have the equivalent of today's income of about 150 a year, maybe even 100, and you can stretch to get a 944. It was accessible. The turbo was more. You'd probably have to make like 200,000 today to get a 944 back in the 80s. The equivalent if you do the calculation. But
Yeah.
a 944 was accessible and it was good looking. It was well built. These cars in the 80s were very, very cool. There's a show, there's this song by the band was David, and I think David and David, but the song was about, well, it said, Welcome to the Boom Town. And it was about the 80s. And it's about cocaine and the excesses of the 80s. And it starts off, the first line is Miss Christina drives a 944. It
Oh,
was
cool.
the 80s, but it was accessible. It was fun. I'd love to bring that back. I'd love that Resto map.
So I just looked it up here. It said in 1980s, 944 price was 20 to 30, which adjusted for inflation today is 60 to $85,000.
Right.
New, the average new car price today is what, $41,000?
No, it's
So
50.
50,000. So that's a 20% increase. So for 20% more, that's why I think the 944 and I compared it to the Boxer price. The Boxers are way higher in terms of relative price versus the Porsche
Right.
944. I mean, the 944 was completely accessible and affordable. And that's why every time you saw one, it was just just out of your reach. Just I mean, like, I could save a little bit more, not get a Starbucks every day. There was no Starbucks back then, but it was aspirational and accessible. You could have gotten one, but by the time I had a kid and it wouldn't have fit in. But that's what I love about it. And I think a resto rotted 944. And the entry level would be so cheap. You can get these cars for like 11, 15. You're going to take the motor out of it, do $15,000 paint job, add a couple, say 15, 20,000 in some body modification to clean it up. And you could be into a really cool resto rotted 944 that drove fantastic for, hell cheaper than a 911. Way cheaper than
It
that.
would be cheaper than 911. Yeah.
And I
And you'd have a
saw
nice
there's
new interior, a modernized interior. And by the way, and this is actually extremely important for all of our cars, the design has to have aged well. And the 944 looks great today.
Yeah, I think it looks today. I think it's a timeless design. It's the proportions, there's not just about a two-door coupe, a well done two-door coupe like the Mustang and this 944. Yeah. So those are my top pick, the one I'd like to have the most. Honestly, would have to say would probably be this reimagined Porsche 944 because you pull up in this thing, resto rotted 944, everybody's going to want to talk to you about that car because there's a lot of resto rods out there, Mustangs and Broncos, but you come up in a resto rotted 944, the cool factor, and then I also think it would drive way better than a resto rotted Mustang. This thing would be an absolute joy to drive.
Well, if you I just had a really funny thought, but if you were to show up at your high school reunion with a 944 resto mod, it would look great. You would be cool. You know, it
Yeah.
wouldn't be cool showing up in the econo line.
Yeah.
They're like, what the hell is that? You think
Yeah.
you're like a creepy old man.
Yeah. There's nothing cool about showing up anywhere in the Econoline, Steve-O. The only person that's cool is you, the way you feel behind the steering wheel, because everybody else is not on your page.
It would look cool at the Arlie coffee shop, but not at
Yeah.
the high school reunion.
Yeah, all the local
The girl,
pedophiles would be coming by asking to borrow your car.
right? Yeah, the best looking girl from your high school class who still looks good now would not want to talk to you. They want to
No.
talk to you in your 944.
Yeah. So,
All right. Well, that was great. And I knew that would be fun. And you're
yeah.
right. I did not predict the 944. And that was a great note to end on. So close us out.
All right, everybody, thanks for listening. Remember to subscribe so you'll get a notification when we do put up a new episode like today. And thoughts and wishes to Adams Hudson and his family. And hopefully Adam should be hopefully coming back on the show here soon. And everybody take care and be safe out there.